what ended up happening is when I did go to Silicon Valley, I was living out of Silicon Valley and building out of Silicon Valley from the seat of my car, living out of hackerspaces, hotels, and other people's sofas, sleeping outside of Google, Apple, NASA. But I wasn't the only one. There were other hackers, if you will, and people that were doing the same thing. It was a very cultural thing to do. And going to a lot of different technology classes every single day, meeting with people in tech, building with people in tech just about every single day. And I'd already known technology by the time I rode to Silicon, but I increasingly grew in my understanding of more.
Visionary podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. As you know, I created this platform as a way to bring on people who I'm inspired by and people who are just crushing it in the world. And I'm excited to hear from our guest today. We have Chris Lafayette, who's just killing it out in Silicon Valley. And you'll hear his story, as we go on. But before we go any further, I want to remind you what your Visionary podcast is all about. This is the one and only podcast intentionally designed to push you forward towards the vision you have created for your life. And if you don't have a vision for your life, this is the podcast to help you structure a vision, become the person God created you to be. And with every episode, my goal is to tell you real, authentic, and purposeful stories. True stories to help you create a vision for your life and get closer to your purpose. A purpose where you're having an impact on those around you and on the world. And I'm happy to say that this brother that you're going to hear from is having a huge impact on the world. My guy, Chris, how you doing, man?
Christian, thank you so much. One, congratulations to your podcast for continuing to develop and you taking on the challenge of that space. And thank you for inviting me to be a guest on it.
Yeah, man, no problem. This is an honor for me, man. I'm interested for everybody, to hear from you and to get some of the knowledge that you've, given me in the short time of us knowing each other. It's really been a blessing. And I was going to read off your bio, but I forgot. So why don't you just give us, a quick, run through of your story and who you are and what you're doing today.
Sure. First and foremost, I'm just spiritually grateful to be here and to be part of where I find myself in particular, in respect to business, being able to build an Emergent Technologist. I'm an Emergent Technologist, a national, international speaker, and a culture and inclusion advocate, meaning that I'm a huge fan of culture and more culture being inducted into technology environments and hubs. And so that we get more people that are building from a cultural perspective when it comes to our product delivery teams of development and technology, and to acquiesce more towards the idea of going in particular beyond just the diversity narrative, but to come on something more colloquial, that ecosystems aren't a set of hardware and software. Ecosystems are people. And the more culture that you have on the ecosystem, the stronger that ecosystem becomes. And that when we do bring more culture, inclusivity in respects to a manifold different variety of culture when it comes to people, no matter color, no matter the gender, but in particular, our most underserved communities of Black communities. When you bring more culture to your ecosystem, it doesn't take away jobs, it levels up the whole ecosystem. So I think that's really important where we find ourselves now in business of consideration.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. That's beautifully said. And just speaking on, culture and diversity, in this space, especially, now I feel like now you're a big player in this space, but taking us back, how did you first enter this market of emergent technology?
When I was a kid, I would come home and there was a man that was sitting at a desk with a little light on, taking apart and tearing down and building up computers. And I'd go to this man and I'd say, "Dad, what's the internet?" That man would go about telling me what the internet was. I'd come home the next day, the same man sitting at a desk with a little light on, tearing and taking apart computers and building them back up. And I'd say, "Dad, how does the web work?" That man would go about telling me about how the web worked. Little did I know that was the beginning foundation, if you will, of my understanding and education on technology. And coming to Silicon Valley, particularly with black-colored skin, I found myself in part being taught technology and different areas of technology and emerging technologies by people that didn't look like me and didn't come from where I necessarily come from and grew up. But it had me to look back at places where I did come from in East Oakland, in the Bay Area, and to realize there wasn't too many people that came from households that had a parent in technology that were part of the Black community. And there weren't too many households, there weren't a lot of them that actually had a parent that was a male figure in that household, you know. So for me, I say I'm spiritually grateful because my Heavenly Father has just been everything to me and provided everything of where my heart beat to everything that I have. And so I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity and to be presented with the opportunity to even be in technology, Christian. And so what ended up happening is when I did go to Silicon Valley, I was living out of Silicon Valley and building out of Silicon Valley from the seat of my car, living out of hackerspaces, hotels, and other people's sofas, sleeping outside of Google, Apple, NASA. But I wasn't the only one. There were other hackers, if you will, and people that were doing the same thing. It was a very cultural thing to do. And going to a lot of different technology classes every single day, meeting with people in tech, building with people in tech just about every single day. And I'd already known technology by the time I rode to Silicon, but I increasingly grew in my understanding of more. And from there, people started asking me to come speak at different events and various events, and there'd be great turnouts of people showing up at different events. And then I started speaking all throughout Silicon Valley, and then really across the country and different places in the United States, and then internationally around the world. And so how I came about becoming an emergent technologist is that it was the title that I founded, because as we move forward, sometimes when we sojourn forward, when it comes to our pioneering experiences as entrepreneurs and explorers of tech, there's a lot of things that we don't know and that we don't understand, far more in superiority to what we do understand. And so in terms of the actual application of applied sciences, how they operate, where they come from natively, and how they operate, and how they interweave and interact with one another, and merge pairing, and how they abide within eco-habitats, and how they form the fundamental constructs of the smart city and technology convergence and things like that. And so it came to a point where I realized that I had been studying emergent technologies and that I've just become very familiar with them and advising companies and transitions and things like that. And so I had to, instead of telling people I do all of these things, I just thought it was fortuitous, or better just to say, well, I'm an emergent technologist. And what's an emergent technologist? Someone that studies emergent technologies and applied sciences.
Right. Man, that's awesome. That's a beautiful story. And it makes me think about, I'm not sure if you went to Silicon Valley with an idea, but it sounds like you didn't go to Silicon Valley with a guaranteed placement, right? Like a guaranteed position, job. And it makes me think about just the life of a creator, you know, because like I have a lot of creators on this platform. And a common thing that I hear is that it's important to just take action in the right direction without knowing what the outcome will be, but just trusting in the process and trusting that if you're in the right place, the right things will happen.
I agree with that to a good extent.
Okay.
I know that when I advise people and have given advice or through mentorship, that sometimes my way of going about or how I went about doing a thing shouldn't be definitive for you. And at some point, you have to give people information and let them decide on what's the better trek to go on which road that they think is best for them. Whether or not I think they're going to fail or not, or win, they could win or they could fail. but there's still benefits in failure.
Mm.
And so when I look at the track, and that's why I call it a pioneer move, because a lot of people in this particular field haven't really been in this direction. But then again, a lot of people have, but ultimately you haven't been in that direction. Mm-hmm. And since you have not been in that direction, there are things that you yet are going to have to learn. Some things you can mitigate and some things you simply just cannot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why we launched and created the Black Technology Mentorship Program that has really grown sizable in the last 5 months. I had no idea that this program was going to be what it is today and where it is today this quickly. But I became to soon realize that you have our hidden hero communities of mentors that come from various backgrounds of technology, and our hidden genius community that come from underserved communities and the Black communities, and bridging and building them together, that they had an appetite and desire to work together, to learn, to hear, and to explore and to grow in tech, which I knew there would be something there, but not of this size and magnitude and this exponential.
Yeah, that's good, man. And I want to get into that too, just the Black Technology Mentorship Program, because I was a part of the first cohort. And seeing that, I mean, I've never even heard of anything like that before. So I'm not sure if there has been others to try to do something like this, especially for the Black community. But kind of why does that play like a special role in your heart for you to take this leap of faith to really, generate this program?
Because one is the threat that technology is under. If you don't bring in more culture into platforms, into technology platforms that we enjoy so much and that we use just about every day, if you don't do that, then we're building on a half foundation, not full. And we're building on a foundation that's not as strong as we believe it to be. And we will continue to see more the eroding of these ecosystems due to systemic racism, due to implicit and explicit bias permeated and in throughout the technology ecosystem. And the lethality rate is high, and it is a virus, systemic racism, and it's plaguing our technology ecosystems, and we should treat it as such. And part of the way to eradicate that is to induce more culture into these environments, so that we begin to create better perspective on our product development paths and cycles and distributions. And so we make our products become more aware by more consumers, and it's easier identifiable. In other words, we want to hire the people that we want to buy our products. And so if you saw what was happening in this country earlier this year in respects to Mr. George Floyd or Miss Breonna Taylor or Mr. Ahmaud Arbery, and you see what's been happening as a byproduct of that, when you see people that look like you and I in particular demonstrating a lot of hate and anger in our communities when these events happen, some of that, not all of that, but some of that is in part to they don't have much. They don't have much to go back home to every night. They don't really have people to help guide them on better steps. Their teachers haven't been afforded the financial wherewithal and the tools and utilities to be able to get that to them. And now they've been ushered into an adult life where they find themselves with minimally nothing. And this was pre-COVID. And I just thought maybe there was an opportunity to be able to bridge and take a lot of the people and people that I don't know, but the types of people that help teach me in tech specific, how can I connect them with places where I come from, where you come from, and in major trans-metropolitan areas such as Atlanta or Oakland, California, Richmond, California, Stockton, or Compton, Brooklyn, Queens, Tacoma, and a bunch of other Chirac and a bunch of other places that are out there. How can we get more technology education in there for entrepreneur opportunities and for career path opportunities? And so that's what's been done.
Yeah.
And I haven't done it alone either. I've have a really strong and developing team that I'm grateful to be able to work with that are so committed to this platform. And I think that's in part of its success is that people have stepped up, answered the call, and our mentors and mentees have answered the call with so much commitment and so much care for this platform. And it's a thing to see. It's really a thing to see. And it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah. Right now, man, no better time than now, for sure. I love that. And that's cool, man. And I think just with me, being a young Black man, being at this age range of where I'm 24. So I'm kind of at the range of, the end of Gen Z, the very beginning of millennial. And so I kind of see both of those worlds. And some of the feedback that I get from my friends, when I tell them about this technology, this opportunity to be in technology, I get a lot of pushback because it seems like such a grand thing. Like technology is kind of, it seems, I don't know the right word for it, but it just seems like such a high level, a high level of like complexity, right? And I think what discourages some people that are my age that look like me, just the word technology, it seems like such an overarching thing that is not available for everyone. But just presenting what you have, it dispels that. But what's some motivation that you can give to someone who may have that mindset? Like, yeah, I want to be in technology, but technology is such a huge thing that I don't even know where to start.
Well, first, and I think that's a very appropriate and good question. And that's a big part of what we address with BTMP is just that. We have starter beginning classes that introduce technologies, and we have our mentors that teach classes and training on what's out there. We have a major AI introductory session coming up here soon that we'll be promoting here in the coming days, conducted by Michael Lanham. And now that we're in the age of emergent technology, where these technologies aren't new, they're emerging. They've been intentionalized for decades and some for over a century, but now they're beginning to emerge because now we have more power in our devices that are able to allow us to be able to power such tech. And we're also on the edge and in the throes of Industry 4.0. And there's so many different areas in which we're building right now and areas that are coming in the pipeline really well on their way to plateaus of productivity that have come out of the trough of disillusionment, if you're looking at Gartner's hype cycle. And these technologies are needed to be helmed and manned by both women and men alike. And a lot of people still don't know which way to go, rightfully so, because we've been looking and dealing for the most part in the last 10 years with app development. Mm-hmm. But now we're heading more closely into virtual and augmented reality, 3D environments, and we're headed more closely into artificial intelligence and machine learning, deep learning, chatbots, smart assistants, and things of that nature. IoT, digital twins, wearables, those are areas. Roboticism, roboticism was something that was already being developed and built, whether it's Android or Mac. But how much more relevant has robots become in the time of COVID?
Right. And
usually we see technologies disrupting and superseding other technologies, but we haven't seen contemporary time a pandemic disrupt technology. But it's happened. And how relevant is Uber today how relevant is Airbnb today compared to where it was just, a little over 8 months ago? And so the technologies that are out there waiting for people to helm should be embraced, and it can be. But to your point and to your question is, how do I get there? And I encourage those that want answers to that to come and be involved with the Black Technology Mentorship Program, because that's going to help them actually boil down and narrow down some decisions of where they may fit best. And just because you may like a tech doesn't mean that you should be working in it, because you may not have the proficiency and the skill set to do that. I love 3D art, but I'm not a 3D artist. And so and I'm not going to be one. I'm just not going to be one. I just don't have that given ability to do it in the capacity of the standards of what I think great 3D art ergonomically is, and how it behaves and acts when it comes to virtual constructs.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. And so, okay, so say the person, right, this hypothetical person, they enter, or they sign up for, or they're interested in signing up for Black Technology Mentorship Program. What is the first step? Like, where do they go to sign up? And then what is that experience for them look like?
So they would go on the site, ChristopherLafayette.com/BTMP, or just go to ChristopherLafayette.com and navigate there and just sign up on the mentorship app. If you want to become a mentor, if you want to become a mentee, we have forms that are there. We go through those forms just about every day to find out who's signed up, who's joined recently, and then we add them in. And then eventually what we'll do is add them to our introduction sessions, whether that's for our seasonal mentor sessions or mentee sessions. We'll add them to our newsletters that go out just about every week. And so they'll get an update in a sense on where to go, when to start, what's the season look like. For example, now we're in our autumn series right now, and we have about another month of that, which has already started. So we have that going on. Some classes you can still come in and join. Some educational programs of courses you can come in and join, whether it's our long-term curriculum courses or you want to be privy to some introductory sessions that are coming into play. But you need to get signed up sooner rather than later. And then we have our winter series that we're gearing up for, that's coming down the pipeline soon for winter 21, that we're really excited about, and we're developing actually right now along with our other mentors.
Yeah, beautiful. Then you can see I got the banner, ChristopherLafayette.com. Sign up for that. I definitely encourage anyone who's looking to get into this technology industry to check it out, because there are so many different verticals that you can enter into. I know you named some of them with IoT and robotics, things like that. But I think there are like over 20 of them. Is that correct?
More than that. So I mean, the thing is that, and look, why not? Why not take advantage of coming and doing something better for yourself than what you are doing now? A lot of people have a lot of self-limiting belief, and they just don't think that they can actually do it. They don't think that, and I'm telling you, as a Black person, we don't have to look at Marvel movies and marvel at a Black Panther film and look at all the wonderful and awesome things that they do in technology and have to sit here and admire that from afar and don't think that we can't build telepresence systems and virtual systems like that. We absolutely can. Other people are doing it, and you're just as capable of doing it, and you and I are just as capable of doing it as anyone else. So a lot of it is take the first step, right? And say, you know what, I'm going to take the first step. I'm not going to just sit here and look at informational podcasts and think about the things that I could do, talk to my friends about it, and never do it. I think that's one of the weakest approaches to people when they sit around talking about all the things that they wish they could be, they want to be. Step up to the plate and get in the game and handle it. And that's a big part of BTMP too. It's available for people that want to take hold of it and challenge it and get in here and dominate. It's not for the weak and the timid. It's for the people that have confidence, that want to have better, that want to do better in the throes of business. And this program is for you. Our words is build together, build strong.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
It's not build together, build weak. It's build together, build strong for a reason. So those are the kind of people that we want, people that have that kind of outlook, that grit, that determination, right? that have that kind of gumption to really step up and make a difference, and then to tell their friends and bring their fellow people with them so that they can do something better for themselves and get out of their environments in which they're in. You don't have to stay in the situation that you're in. You don't have to be in that situation. So if somebody's out there watching this now and I just can't get out of it. Yes, you can. There's other things. And look, ours isn't the only program out there, but it's a great one. It's a great option to move forward. You have the opportunities. Sometimes you just got to get in there and fight. Kick, knee, scratch, claw, bite, do what you have to do, but get in there and fight. Mm-hmm. So now the opportunity is there. Will you take it?
Yeah.
How real is that?
Man, that's as real as it gets, bro. Wow. I mean,
how real is that? I mean, come on, man. We go so hard in the paint with a basketball in our hand or a football or a mic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's crazy. And talk a little bit about why you feel like that. I mean, that I don't know. It's not the easy way, not the easy way out, but it seems like the goal, like in the Black community coming up, is to do one of the things you just said: be an entertainer, be in sports.
Because that's what we see.
Mm.
That's what we see when we look at Black success. We see the majority of the millionaires and the billionaires that we see in this world that are Black are coming in through those entertainment and sports. That's what we see.
Yeah.
That is the benchmark of what we see.
Mm-hmm.
And what's wrong with getting a $250,000, $120,000 salary?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but we see these very tall. I'm not saying don't shoot for it. I got a nephew that plays football. I'm going to carry on love for it deeply. But that's not the only plan he has in his pocket. It's football.
Mm-hmm.
How about our athletes? Our athletes, the short time in NFL career, 2-3 years, maybe 4 years. What do you do when you get that? A lot of them burn their money by the time they're 5 years out. Yeah. Now what? What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of them go on to do security work. What are you going to do?
All right.
A lot of them don't have the ineptitude and the fortitude and the wherewithal and the understanding how to become an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of NFL athletes and basketball players, things, and then they get all this money. They never had that before. They burn it. A lot of them try to become entrepreneurs, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I think it's a great thing to do with your capital. But do you know how to be an entrepreneur? You know basketball. Right. So in your pursuits of becoming an entrepreneur, you end up losing a lot of your capital then.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. And I want to hit, there's two topics that are
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And there's two things on my heart that I want to speak on. The first is how you said that that's not what we see. We don't see Black people that are successful in technology. And so I think it's important that we change that narrative and we start to tell more stories,
right?
More success stories of Black individuals in the technology space. And I know you told me behind the scenes that you're in the process of writing a book about, your journey through Silicon Valley, right? Talk a little bit about that.
I finished a book called Surviving in Silicon Valley. It's just that, Surviving in Silicon Valley. But ultimately, I don't know if I'll ever release it. I may or may not. I've thought about it a bunch because I don't want people to think that I've lived some despondent and poor life. I've been very blessed, if you will, through grace and mercy that I survived. And I could write a book and how did you survive in Silicon Valley? Grace and mercy. I mean, that's it, in a very beautiful, pretty nutshell, if I could put it like that. Mm-hmm. But, in terms of there's other parts of the book that really do speak to, I think the determination, some of the hardships, and a lot of things of technology and the encouragement and some of the focus that you have to have from a business perspective on surviving in Silicon Valley or any other technology hub that you find yourself in, or even on the pathway of the pioneers in the throes of being a tech entrepreneur. So I don't know, maybe I'll come out with this book. If enough people may say, hey, Chris, we want you to come out with this book, I may come out with this book. But if not, I probably won't do it. I think there are people that can benefit from it. There's some people that have read some of it, have really enjoyed it. But the book, for the very most part, is done. It's a pretty thick sized book, but we'll see. But yeah.
Okay. Nice. No, I love it. I love it. So guys, if you want to hear that book, man, reach out and let him know if he gets enough enough requests, we might see it. And I think it'll be a powerful thing, man. For sure. And so the last thing I want to talk about is allies, right? Because you talked about how you didn't build this platform by yourself. This Black Technology Mentorship Program, you didn't build it by yourself. It took other individuals helping out. And then for me, like I haven't met a lot of successful Black males, especially in the technology space. And the way that I found you was through a ally, right? Through a friend who I reached out to, a white woman who's really nice, and kind of asked her about her story. And she recommended that I reach out to you, and I didn't even know who you were. Right. But like I said at the beginning of this episode, in the short amount of time that I've known you, like you've helped me out so much already. Right. And so I'm just grateful, to Cassie. Her name is Cassie. Shout out to you. I'm thankful for her for, connecting us. So I want you to talk about like just the importance of allies.
Sure. Allyship is so important. And the thing is what we've done our level best at BTMP is to define and have a better understanding of what allyship actually is, because people have so many different definitions of allyship, just like they have so many definitions of diversity. One of the things that we practice with BTMP is formulating an allyship and making our whole platform an allyship. Mm-hmm. And an ally is someone that is actually working towards the greater good, colloquially speaking, in groups and bringing their individual cultures together to build together and help support and build within a system that they build in together. That's a big part of allyship. And so that's what we've done in our whole BTMP platform is an allied platform, is an allyship. And then we have external allies and people that are building with us, with our community partners and our community or corporate sponsors, if you will. And so we're really excited to work with them. Shout out to Dianne Tucker, who's over our whole education team, and what she does when it comes to BTMP. She's such an incredible leader. She definitely, is just one of the more stronger Black women I've ever met in education that really have taken, the reins on the horse and really have rode hard, And so, the kind of people I work with. Shout out to Shannon Carlton, who is someone that has come to us recently in the past months, if you will, have really stepped up to the plate and have demonstrated what an ally does. Instead of just talking about it. And she doesn't look like me. She doesn't look like you. She doesn't come from where we come from, but she brings her own culture and her flavor approach to the narrative at hand. And, shout out to so many other people, especially our mentors and our mentees who just really are really attempting to champion this platform together, that have been so committed and so diligent, because there's been some that have joined that have not been committed, that haven't been diligent. They're just as only focused, I think, for Black communities as the posting a Black square in your Instagram page and showing solidarity. They have their role too, and that's fine, I guess, for what you think, is your way of representing, commitments towards Black communities. But that's not real allyship. That's not real allyship. It's the ones that are getting here in the trenches with me, that are working, that are going, that are heavy pounding, going on that field. Let's go handle some business today. That's allyship. And so shout out to those that are still with us, which is the majority of those that are committed, and to the ones that haven't. I would just really just focus on checking your commitments. Mm-hmm. Checking your commitments. Is it just something that, is a feel-good initiative for you, or something that you really want to be part of? And I tell you what, there's some people that I thought were really, it's the ones who I thought that were really, really that don't. And it's the ones you don't even know, in droves, that step up and stand tall with us. And, there's great benefit with that.
Yeah. That's so good. And well said, well said, man. I love that. And I want you to hit on that just because another thing that I hear or just see, from like my peers is just the desire to want to build alone, want to be self-made, quote unquote. Right. And, those individuals don't understand the major impact of allyship and, having allies and being able to just, to have access to other cultures and what they provide. And so I'm glad you said that the way you did. And it reminds me of this quote. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, together.
Sure. And I think about that as you're sitting here talking. It's like, one of my brothers, my brother Rod, told me a long time ago about giving back, and the benefits that does in the throes of business, And so, I think about, I'm sitting here thinking about my brother Rod, man. Shout out Rod, shout out VAC. And it's like, you just think about wanting to build platforms that give back, that really give to other people, what I mean? That really, go that distance. To me, it's rewarding in and of itself, even if we just help one person, get along further than where she or he may have been. I just think that's super dope. I think that's special. I think it's just like, man, because somebody helped us along the way at some point, so, I think giving back, is really important, as I've been raised, so, in a lot of ways, and I'm not trying to tell people how to do it at all. You'll do it, what you feel is right in your heart. But I just felt like this program was just something necessary. I just don't want to talk about systemic racism and make posts about that all day and how bad it is. We'll get in the game and do something about it. Most of your diversity and inclusion and belonging people and leaders out there, they talk. They do a lot of talking. They do a lot of talking. Most of your diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging leaders in business talk. They get their paycheck and they talk. Mm-hmm. They get their, and they don't have solutions. So a lot of them care too, but they don't have real solutions. They're bumping heads with executive leadership, ERGs, and can't even get things approved. Talk. Yeah. We talk about it. I mean, it's real. Mm-hmm. So instead of, getting, I'm excited to get someone a job at Google or Apple, but I'll be even more excited in business when we have people that look like us that create the next Google and Apple. Right. How real is that? So that's what I got for you.
That's real. Love that, and it kind of leads into this last and final question. And just because this is your visionary podcast, I want to hear about your vision for the Christopher Lafayette brand and for Black Technology Mentorship Program.
My vision is this. I have no vision, man. I'm just subject to the will of my Father, and I just go wherever He guides me in my heart to go. My brand I'm able to build this brand and able to rock it, and get it to where it's at. I'm grateful for that. You know what I'm saying? I think when we talk about business vision, I get what that means and from a visionary perspective of business, but man, I don't have a vision for it because I never thought that my brand would be what it is today, and I certainly didn't plan it out for it to be like what it is today. So it's just grace and mercy, man. And I'm just grateful for it, and wherever it goes is the way it's supposed to go. And that's just kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, man, I love that answer too. I love that because we are being guided. So, that surrender is everything.
Yes, sir.
100%. Well, cool. Well, that's all for this episode, man. Chris, I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you bringing your insight onto my platform. And I just look forward to connecting with you more and, building strong together.
And man, Chris, I'm just really proud of what I see you doing and how you go about it, doing it, the right way and just such a respectful way and how to go about doing business. And I look forward just to continue to build with you. And I think you're just doing so much for the community and, just keep it humble, and build strong and don't let off the gas, do what you need to do, but build it right. And I think as far as business is concerned, I think you'll do just fine. So I appreciate being part of your podcast. One love, salute.
Yeah, peace and love.